jealous pot.
Good morning from Something Sweet is About to Happen. So many new things today. I have a gimbal. For those of you who don't know what that is, because I didn't a very short period of time ago, it's a electronic thing that will allow the camera to move with me, so that when I move, it moves with me. It's a learning curve, so if the video looks funny, I know right now that it doesn't look like I'm looking at the camera, and I don't know how to fix that. So we may have to work on that. Big shout out to John and Layla for helping me figure out how it works, and we'll see how it goes from there. So what we're making today is whoopie pies, but they're made with a carrot cake batter. The first thing we're going to need to do, there are going to be some steps. We're going to, I think I told you this when I made my carrot cake, don't buy already shredded carrots. You need to buy fresh carrots and grate them yourself. When I do them for my carrot cake, I do them in my food processor, and I'm going to do them in my food processor today. But what I typically do is take the blade out of the bottom and just use the grater blade for the food processor. But this recipe tells me that I need for them to be finely grated. They're not going to be big. The cookies for the whoopie pies are not going to be big like a cake layer. So you want them to be fine, so they'll be finer in the cookies. So we're going to do these with both the blade in the bottom of the food processor and the grater attachment, so that they'll be finely grated. So I'm going to start that now. I'm going to do that first, and then I'll let it go, and we'll get all the ingredients out to actually mix the batter. So I'm going to put my carrot. Oh, that may have looked really funny because I don't know how that works. So I put my carrot in. I'm going to grate it. Takes a cup and a half of carrots. Make these. Oh, turned itself off. Okay, we're back. The gimbal is great. However, I discovered that the one I ordered is not strong enough to handle my iPhone. That's why it turned itself off. That's why the end of the last video is so funny. Meanwhile, the carrots are grated and ready to go into the mixture. And we're about to weigh out our dry ingredients. So we need 250 grams of all-purpose flour. Let me get this scoop out of here. 250 grams. So I've got my bowl. I've zeroed out my scale. I'm not sure I did that. Okay. This has not been my best baking morning so far. Let's try again. I don't want to mess this up. I'm not sure I zeroed that out before I started putting flour in. Okay, now it is. Now we're on again. We're going to have 250 grams of all-purpose flour. If you don't know why I'm weighing it, you can go back to a video I did on the difference in measuring and weighing, and especially with dry ingredients. It makes a huge difference. So we want to make sure this comes out the way we want it to. Okay, 249. That's pretty close. 250 grams of all-purpose flour in 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. I have to look at the top. 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, teaspoon of cinnamon, a teaspoon of ginger. Okay, a generous teaspoon. And a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. It's gonna smell good. I love to smell these spices. And then a half a teaspoon of salt. We're gonna whisk those dry ingredients together. Hang right there, I'll get a whisk. So that we have those ready when it's time to add them to our wet ingredients. Okay, and now we're going to use our mixing bowl. We got a lot of stuff on this island this morning. Okay, we zero that out and we are going to put in a half a cup, which is 1 stick of butter. Okay, that's in. That is, it says it's 113 grams, but guess what? On my scale, it's only 108. Isn't that something? 113 grams. I'm gonna fix that. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Let's see, 100 and, let's see if we put that in. We'll add just a little bit. It's a little bit too much. There we go. We fixed that. See, that's what I'm telling you. A stick of butter should be the same no matter what, but it's not. 113 grams of butter, a half a cup. We're zeroing our scale out. We want a half a cup or 100 grams of brown sugar. Okay, we've got our brown sugar. And we're going to zero the scale out. And 100 grams of granulated sugar. All right. And 2 large eggs, but we're not going to put the eggs in yet. We are going to do our sugars and our butter. We are going to put it on our stand mixer. And we're going to beat that until it's light and fluffy. So a couple of minutes, we're going to let that beat. We'll scrape the sides down, and then we'll add our eggs. Oh, we'll also need vanilla. I'll go get the vanilla. While that's beating, I'll tell you, we're going to use another kind of buttercream that I've never made before to fill these with. It's Russian buttercream, and it's only got 2 main ingredients, sweetened condensed milk and butter. How can that be bad? So we'll be doing that after we get these cookies made and baked and cool. So we'll be doing that a little bit later today. Turn that up and let it beat some more. We want it to be light and fluffy. Okay, can you see that it's light and fluffy? See how fluffy it is? Smack that up just a little bit. Look in there. Yeah, that's looking really good. We want to make sure it's completely combined. And before we get ready to start adding eggs, I'll stop the mixer and scrape the sides to make sure we have everything up off the bottom. I've made lots of carrot cake. My carrot cake recipe wants the carrots grated bigger, and it has pineapple and some other things in it, but it's a little different for these. We'll see how they come out. All right, let's scrape that down. Make sure we've got it completely scraped. There's no butter on the paddle. Scrape all that off. And then we'll turn it back on. And we'll add 1 egg. Do as I say, not as I do. Break your eggs in something else first. I'm not doing that today. It's been a rather frustrating baking morning for me with the whole gimbal thing, but that's going to be a great thing when it gets resolved. So we'll just be patient until it does. Turn that up a little bit, get that egg incorporated. Scrape that down really, really well. Add our other egg. And then we're going to add our vanilla. Now, I make my own vanilla, and I've made it for several years, and I use vodka, but I've been reading about making it with rum. So I'm about to start a new batch, and I'm going to do some with vodka and some with rum. We'll see how that works. It'll be a long time before we know because it has to steep. Okay, we got our vanilla in there. I may have gotten a little batter on the top of that vanilla container. Scrape that down. We want this to be completely blended into a homogeneous mixture before we start adding the flour mixture to it. We're going to turn it on low. We'll add the flour just a little bit at a time. I'm wondering what some pecans would taste like in here, but we're doing it by the recipe this time. Oh, I smell that everywhere. I smell those spices. Sabrina's getting tired of holding the camera. That's why we need the gimbal. That's when I start going all over. All right, one more addition. We'll scrape it down, and I'll finish blending it by hand so we don't beat that flour too long. All right. Got all this off. That good stuff back in the bowl. We don't want to miss any of it. Make sure I've got all of that blended together. Smells delicious. Now we're going to add our carrots and we're going to fold them in. So we're going to put those in finely grated. And we're going to fold those into the batter. When I get those folded in, I'm going to turn it off. We're going to reset and get the pan over here that we're going to scoop these onto. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. Okay, we'll be back in just a few. Okay, we have our batter. It's all full of carrots and good stuff. Carrot stuff must be good for you. It's got vegetables in it, right? We're going to use a 2 tablespoon cookie scoop to scoop these out. I want to make them as uniform as possible because we're going to sandwich them and we want them to be the same size. So I've got my silicone mat on my cookie sheet that has spaces on it. We can't use every space because they might run into each other. So we're going to see how many we can get scooped onto this pan. I'm going to level that off so that I have a level one of those and put it on there. And then we will put one here. Here. Okay, I'm going to keep scooping these out. I'll show you what they look like when I have them all scooped. Okay, I have one whole pan scoop. That's not all the batter. So we'll put these in the oven. We'll stick this batter in the refrigerator, and I'll show you what they look like when they come out of the oven in just a few minutes. We got the cookie part of the whoopie pies made. They turned out really good. In fact, we were one off of even, so we tasted it, and it tastes really good. The only change that I would make, if I were doing it again, I might use the bigger scoop so that you'd have a bigger whoopie pie at the end. But they're going to taste good anyway. So we've got those done. I've got them laid out and ready. And now we're ready to make our Russian sweetened condensed milk buttercream. It'll take 3 sticks of butter to do this. So we're going to open the butter and put it in the mixing bowl. We're going to use the whisk attachment, and we're going to beat this butter for 5 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and get it in the mixing bowl, get it started, and then there's no reason for you to hang here with us for 5 minutes while we beat this butter. So we'll turn it off and we'll come back when the butter is very, very, very light and fluffy. We've let this butter get to room temperature, not super soft. You can touch it. You can see where my finger has dented it, but it's certainly nowhere close to melted. So, and you want to make sure that's exactly what it says. Soft, but not too soft. So try to be really careful. I tend to make things too soft sometimes. So we're going to do that. We're going to use the whisk attachment, and we're going to turn it on, and we're going to set our timer for 5 minutes. It says to beat it on medium high. Okay, we're going to turn the mixer on. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, we have been beating this butter for 6 minutes. It's a much lighter color, and it's very fluffy. I'm pretty excited about this buttercream. For years, for almost all of my life, I thought American buttercream was all the buttercream there was. And I found out there's so many other kinds. And I've tried several of them. I've done Swiss meringue, I've done Italian, and now I'm doing this Russian one. I'm really anxious to see how it's going to go. Okay, the other part of this recipe is sweetened condensed milk. It's another first for me. If I've ever used sweetened condensed milk, I just use the can of it. But this calls for 1 cup or 311 grams. So I'm going to put 311 grams in here. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to stop pouring this when it gets to 311 grams. Let's see. is almost the whole can. Just a little bit too much. All right, that's 311 grams. Now it says to put it on medium high. We're going to turn it down. It's so fluffy. And we're going to add this 1/3 at a time and let it beat completely. Okay, so we're going to eyeball this. So we're going to put in the first third. And let that incorporate. Some on the side of the bowl. I'm trying to decide if I should stop and scrape it down. I think I should. Put that down in there. Okay. We're going to put another third. We don't want to waste any sweetened condensed milk. We're about to put the last of it in. Thick, creamy balls up on the whisk. Looks right. And scrape it down. It's a good buttercream consistency. Let's see. Okay. One of the things that's surprising about this for me is it doesn't look like it made that much. I would have thought it would have been more. Okay, it says in the recipe that we have whipped a lot of air into this, and we don't want that much air in it. So we're going to switch. We're going to get all of that off. It also says we should taste it at this point to see if it's sweet enough. And I say, no. You want to try?
Agree with that.
Okay, we're going to put this right here. There is just a little bit of sweetened condensed milk left in this can. It said if you don't think it's sweet enough to add more sweetened condensed milk, what am I going to do with that little bit of sweetened condensed milk that's left in that can anyway? We're going to add it. We're going to put the paddle attachment back on, beat that in, and then we'll switch to the paddle attachment. We're going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of vanilla. We're going to put the paddle attachment on to get some of those air bubbles out. We're going to turn that on, whip it up. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, thank you. I'm going to put that back down. We're going to put this back on here. I only have 2 hands. Okay, we're going to put that on there. We're going to put a pinch of salt and a splash of vanilla. We're going to put the paddle attachment on. Two to 3 minutes. Okay, so we're going to beat it 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to get our piping bag ready, and then we'll be back. Okay, we've got our piping bag a little more than half full. We've twisted it at the top so that it's nice and firm, and these are going to be quick and easy to fill. So we will just start right here, and we'll put some on there. One observation is that I don't think I could use one recipe of this and ice a 3-layer cake. I also don't know if this is firm enough to like pipe decorations. It might hold its shape okay, I just don't know. But I will say the taste is delicious. Okay, I'm going to finish this little row. I'm going to get these topped, and then I can finish piping them, and you can see what the finished product looks like. Okay, let me lay my piping back down. Give it its top. Some might say we have too much filling. My theory is there's no such thing as too much filling. Those are so cute. We have one more tray of them to do. The only other thing I'll do, I'll bring you back and show you a few on a plate in a few minutes. Here they are. Don't they look delicious? We're going to stick them in the refrigerator. I think that the icing will firm up a little bit in there, but they look absolutely delicious. I hope you have a great day, and I hope something sweet happens to you today.